Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Microphone Tense in the Trenches. Today, I have a very interesting story to tell before I introduce our guest. So, a few months ago, I was reached by the guest of today, and she was telling me that she took some inspiration from the book of Microphone Tense, and she's working on a very innovative project that was trying to take the front end community alongside generative AI and Microphone Tense. Now, if you know me, and probably a few of you now, I'm extremely passionate about communities. And I think that is the power of the technology landscape nowadays. And therefore, when you mix Microphone Tense is another big passion of mine, communities, and then we have also a bit of sparkle with generative AI. Now the things becomes extremely interesting. And therefore, I spent a bit of time with Julia, that is the founder of this new startup called Webcrumbs. It's a very interesting startup. I'm super excited of this session because we are going to touch a lot of ground around how they use Microphone Tense, how generative AI fits inside the Microphone Tense, what's the future of Microphone Tense with generative AI. But more importantly, we are going to have a glance of this product that seems extremely compelling. And I have seen blog posts I will share in the notes that are talking about comparing already Webcrumbs with V0 from Vercel. Now, I don't have to add anything else, but I want to introduce you to Julia. Welcome, Julia, to this show.
Ciao, Luca. It's such a pleasure to be here and to talk to you again.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. So with Julia, we have quite a few chats in the past few months because we are both passionate, we love what we're doing, and therefore it's pretty nice. So Julia today is our guest, and usually what we request to every guest is introducing themselves, give us a bit of background why you thought about Microphone Tense and why you created Webcrumbs. So what is the idea behind that? And then from there, we move on the discussion.
Yeah, sure. So I was born in the late 80s and luckily into a family of tech enthusiasts. We always had the latest computer model at home, and I simply loved it. And I would see my dad working as a software engineer back then, and I would try basically to imitate him. And like that, I started learning. Just to give you an idea, my mother was also in tech, and even my grandfather took an interest. So a very techy savvy family. And I remember going to newsstands with my father and always choose programming books, programming magazines instead of the usual comics and other children's book. So I learned to program at a very, very young age. Started with what was there at the moment, like ASP, PHP, and then Linux, Bash, Python, and eventually I started working with JavaScript. So when I was young, I wouldn't use much JavaScript, only when I wanted to add some funny things in a website. But with time, I saw that JavaScript grew through a large proportion of the community, and now things are much more organized with best practices and libraries such as React. So it has a lot of things to do with Webcrumbs and why we started it.
Amazing. I'm glad that you started very early days with tech. Is a remarkable story, and also now I understand why you are so passionate about tech. So that's great. You basically living and breathing in tech since young age. That's amazing. So Webcrumbs. Tell us more about that. Well, we want to hear everything, but in particular, sorry, I'm mad with stories. I would like to understand where the idea is coming from.
Yeah, of course. So the idea is really related to the personal story that I shared a little bit. As I was growing old, I would make a lot of websites for family, friends, my university, and my college. And of course, I used WordPress at the time. And I found it really amazing that we would have a plugin for anything that we could imagine. But then when I moved to JavaScript, which now is the language preferred by the large majority of developers, over the infamous PHP in a sense, things weren't the same. If you want to add a new feature to a website, you need to read a lot of documentations, blogs, YouTube tutorials if you need. You have to figure out how to use a new NPM library or sometimes a third-party service. Do a lot of integrations, debugging. So it takes a lot of time and effort. And for me, it's inconceivable that we'd have to wait 15 days, for instance, a sprint to have a gist of a feature. So September last year, I launched Webcrumbs on GitHub as a repository with that concept in mind. I basically proposed to the community that we've built an open source for building JavaScript plugins. And luckily, it was super well accepted from the early days. A lot of people showed support, like GitHub stars start to skyrocketing to hundreds and eventually thousands of people. And that was when I knew it was something that I couldn't ignore anymore.
That's amazing. It's a very nice story. And okay, so what is Webcrumbs today? So what can I do with it? I play with it, but I don't want to, let's say, share my experience. I want to hear from you, considering this nice story and considering you have like the vision on how the product will evolve and everything. How, if I'm a developer and I want to, or a designer and I want to, let's say, approach Webcrumbs, what I can find behind that?
Yeah, sure. So first it started a little bit as a dream. I had no idea how to make it real. I started reading a lot about micro frontends in fact, and it was really mind blowing for me. Not only that what I wanted to build this plugin ecosystem was possible, but also that the full literature had already anticipated a lot of pain points and challenges that I would face and that we would face when trying to solve the pain points for our users. So we started with Frontend AI, which is our online platform. It actually, there's a funny story there. It wasn't supposed to be the main product. I started it as something. It was a way for our team to learn how to build and launch products. It's AI that lets you write, lets you generate code and CSS based on prompts and based on images. So this is the online platform that is there, and you can access for free. No login required. You can build nice things there, and we also have the open source project, which is a way to encapsulate these plugins that we call, but they are actually micro frontends, to later embed in any website of yours. So right now, what we do have is the Frontend AI platform that lets you work mainly on the front end, but it's going to be full stack eventually. And yeah, it's ready for use.
That's awesome. So basically, you leveraged micro frontends for, let's say, composability, for the composability characteristic that they have, and you put like a bit of Gen AI on top of that, a bit, take with quotes, and then nowadays you democratize basically the possibility to create website for everyone.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I tried, by the way, the product, and I personally love it. I think I really like the fact that you spent not only time on thinking about the whole process, but you also spend time on creating a nice user experience when you are inside the product. Because I found, let's say, very familiar immediately with the UI and everything, and it's something I always appreciate, and often is overlooked, especially for new products. So thank you for that. I think you did a remarkable job over there.
Thank you.
But there is another thing that catch my attention. So basically, you are saying, okay, we democratize the way how you can create composable website. So to a certain extent, and probably is my architecture hat that is telling me that, you are saying micro frontends are suitable also for small applications and not only for this massive, large enterprise system that everyone are talking about. Am I right thinking that?
Yeah, exactly. So I think usually the literature and everyone would say microfronts is for smaller scale applications could bring more problems than not. But I think that that's true, except if there is a way that is so simple, but so simple that it takes all the extra overhead of front ends and enable it even for the little guys in a sense. So that's what we want to achieve with webcams. And I'm glad that you mentioned the user interface. We really want to pass this idea, this feeling that is simple. There's not something out of another world. And once we do it, the advantages can be enormous. One way of thinking of webcams, so it's like to think that we are building micro frontends for the little guys. And so we're building what could be the not a small project actually. If the literature tells you not to jump into micro frontends except if the project has a certain size, and it makes total sense. So we are building what can be the largest project at all, a global micro frontend platform.
Oh, and I really love this definition, the global microfrontends platform. So, what would be the impact of a global microfrontends platform then?
Yeah. So think that at this very moment, there are many developers working on the same features in every corner of the world. They are all passing through all of that, reading documentation, reading tutorials, etc., debugging. So imagine if they could use other developers' pieces of code in a modular, containerized manner, a way that wouldn't conflict with the rest of their code base. If we can do that, that's the benefits are huge, right? So think of webcams as a global community of developers collaborating outside of their company's borders, building plugins that can be reused on other sides of the globe.
Oh, that's very nice. So now we are moving also on top of let's create a full-fledged website with webcams. Now you create also a portion of, I don't know, real-time sports data, for instance, with webcams, and I can embed it in wherever website that I want because you create the boundaries around the code and CSS and everything related to that. That's super fascinating concept. So basically, you are creating micro frontends on steroids for everyone that and democratized. I think I really like this concept, like democratizing micro frontends for everyone.
Yeah.
That's extremely powerful. You should steal it for your next advertising.
We use that on steroids too.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty cool. Okay, um, so you envision that basically your platform will enable even a company that currently maybe is providing a SaaS service and generate through webcams a new microphone 10 that everyone can pick it up. Do you also think that um, you decouple enough the UI representation from the logic? Therefore, I can have, let's say, a widget that can have different UI experience, but with the same, I don't know, business logic behind the scene?
Yeah, that's super important for us. Reading your book and talking to people in the industry too, everyone says that a challenge of using micro frontends is maintaining a coherent design, coherent appearance. So what we did with micro frontend is, sorry, with web fronts is that we divided very clearly what is code and what is theme. So developers basically they can write code, and the companies or anyone who's using that code later and reusing, they can apply that code in the final theme of their website. So we are separating these two spaces so it can be really, really reusable.
Nice. I really like that because I think that is the key. Very often, nowadays in the front end the community, there is this concept of co-location that is, let's say, emerging for a while. I would say is not very new, but and based from my experience working with MStar architectures, at some point this collocation will make the things less reusable, but instead you are want to have less the maximum reusability with a trade-off to handle a bit of complexity inside your code. That makes sense to me. And therefore, so far, do you have like any customers that started to do some project that you think are remarkable, and therefore you would like to share with us to understand, let's say, the power of what you can do with webcrams?
Yeah, we have thousands of users actually, and they are building the most different things you can imagine. It's kind of a long tail, like Amazon, that you go there and you can buy anything. People build anything in Webcrams. So we have event management systems being built there. We have websites for students. We have even for governmental agencies. We are seeing people using webcams for that. So really, it's a long tail and with very very specific niched use, but all combined in all being done through webcams. So we're super happy about that.
That's lovely to hear that. But I'm curious now. So at some point, you are running your company, and you have, let's say, started to have quite a lot of noise on the internet, on social media. I watched few YouTube videos on people that were using webcams, and then one day pops up an article that basically is comparing V0 from Vercel, that is, let's say, a huge investment for them, and they are, let's say, spending a lot of time to create a very nice application that and feature inside their platform, and versus webcrams. So,
Yeah.
what was your reaction? Because for me, if I was you, I was jumping off from the chair and started to cheer and open the first bottle of champagne. But every person is different.
Yeah, so I love reading these comparisons because it was something we did not anticipate. It wasn't by design, it was completely by accident. One thing that I'm super proud of our team is that we are fast to launch new things. Like in April, I started hiring. In May, we already had the front end AI, and we only iterated from then to make it as it is today. And it is an online platform that helps you write code with prompts or images. It's free. You can use no login required. Super cool. But it wasn't supposed to be our flagship. For me, it was more of a way for people, actually for our team, to learn how to launch a product.
Okay.
But luckily it went super well, and Frontend AI is now, as I mentioned, has thousands of users, and we even had to change our roadmap, uh, not to abandon front-end AI. So yeah, so now front-end AI is becoming each time more the webcrams plugin builder that we want it to be. But yes, I love hearing the comparisons of webcrams and V0. Our platform is a little they are similar, but ours is a little bit more focused on front end and customizing the appearance. And V0 is more focused on writing all the backend code for you. And the reason that we focus on appearance is, as I mentioned, the micro frontends challenge. So a lot of industry leaders telling that that's an issue. Companies investing a lot in design systems because of that. So Webcrams is solving this by separating the code and the team, so developers can code and companies can use their code in their own themes. And if you go to Frontend AI, that's what you'll see. You see code in one side and theme in another. So you can even explore our templates. And we are now opening for community templates. And we have a lot of submissions already, especially because this month is Hacktoberfest. So super nice. And we have all these open source templates that you can simply change the theme as you like.
That's nice. So let me see. You raise a very interesting point here. So let's try to play a role play game, right? So I'm a team that I'm working with webcams, and I created my design system. Everything works nicely. Now suddenly there is I don't know. We need to change the font on the entire system. How would look like using webcams?
Yeah, that's perfect because it's coming in a new feature we are working on right now. Uh, Very soon, companies will have their own design system embedded in Webcrams. There will be even a flow to approve new buttons or like anything a design system has. And but changing it is as simple as changing the theme. So you basically go to the uh, right panel and change the font. You can change spacing. So it's super simple, even if you want to make something very coherent. And yeah, so companies will be able to have their own design systems internally in front end AI.
Oh, nice. And therefore, from there, if now I'm a developer and I need to integrate that in my part, I just download, let's say, I don't know, a zip file, or you I can clone in my GitHub repo. How does it work?
Yeah, right now, exactly right now, we made all the source code open, and you can download it or copy in many languages. You can plain HTML or React or Vue or Svelte. Like we want to be framework agnostic for the modern web development, right? But in the future, not very long, not not far away from today, you'll be able to embed it with a single line of code that is actually a web component, is a webprams/plugin, and then the hash of your code and the hash of your theme. So it will all combine in your web page, just like a micro frontend do. So that's, I'm telling you a little bit of the way ahead.
Of the future. Nice. I love that. So you mentioned the magic word, web component. Is it the secret sauce for creating the strong boundaries around micro frontends for you?
Yeah. So I like to focus on the purpose of the goal,
Yeah.
and not on specific
Okay.
techniques. Right now, it seems like a good option, but we are not limited to it. It's just we even
Yeah, no
have a
worries.
npm repository right now, and it works with web components. But if we decide later that there's a better way, we would probably change it. Even I am, because of something you told me, I am consistently checking the realms that may
Yeah,
come.
Shadow
Uh,
Realms. Yeah.
yeah,
Shadow Realms are a very interesting thing, and I'm so sad. So, if okay, let's take a step back. So, Shadow Realms is a proposal that currently is with TC49. I think is in the second draft at the moment. I didn't check the latest announcement because I saw yesterday in the newsletter that they announced a few new things, but I need to check that thing. But in reality, imagine Shadow Realms like iframes without the burden of bringing a window object into it,
yeah.
and therefore you have like the security posture of an iframe without the heaviness of an iframe and potentially other drawbacks. And it seems extremely compelling because it's basically a container that is
Mhm.
well secured and that can be embedded in every single framework, whatever it is. So it's very interesting. I really hope that they will be we see the light of the day at some point. But definitely, Shadow Realm is something that in the micro frontends world we should keep an eye on, and hopefully will come at some point in our journey.
Yeah, I hope so.
We really hope so.
Yeah.
Currently, you have like a roadmap, as you said. You anticipated a couple of features, but where do you want to arrive with Webcrams? Because it's a very interesting project. You are focusing a lot on the let's say capabilities and having a sleek experience for the user. That is something that is extremely remarkable, and I appreciate a lot as a user, and especially also because I'm thinking there are maybe people that are less, let's say, keen to code, or they don't know much about coding, and having a solution like that can definitely help to, let's say, reach their goals, that basically being visible on the web, wherever it is. But I'm pretty sure that you have like a very bold vision behind the scenes. So can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, sure. First, about a controversy, I really don't think the developer profession will go away anytime soon. And if anything, AI will only expand the number of people that can build applications of any sort. A little bit of how it happens with content creators that once only journalists would write, and now everyone can write. So I really believe that not only the developer profession won't be extinguished because of AI, but it will also be expanded and more people will be able to build applications. So the feature that we see is that we'll have to increase efficiency of our work, right? It will come to a point that waiting sprints uh, in the plural won't be acceptable anymore, and we'll need to move faster. And one way of doing that, instead of just relying on AI to write all the code, is to leverage on other people's knowledge. Is for us to build upon what has already been built and not start from scratch all the time. So we see Webcrams as this hub where people will be collaborating and building on top of other people's work, not only in a sense that GitHub is already or NPM is already, that you have access to the code, but in a sense that it is actually reusable code that integrates seamlessly to your project without conflicts. And for us, that's huge. That's the world that we want to see.
Oh, totally. I think is very interesting. I was wondering why you were talking about collaboration. Do you consider you have a fantastic UI, by the way? Do you envision also the possibility to have like multiple people working together in the same UI, like Miro style or similar tools?
Yes, when we move closer to B2B, let's say like working with companies, that starts to be very important. So in these new features that we are working on, that you'll be able to have your own design system there will be roles for people to suggest new design elements, other for others to approve it, and building together will become super important in I mean in the context of a project. So yes, this is definitely in the future. But also I like to talk about, to think of collaboration in a larger scale, like people that are not even in the same projects, but they are sharing reusable code with each other. So I think that's really powerful.
That's very nice. Yeah, I think there are a few concepts that for me are stood out here in this discussion. So definitely the usage of micro frontends as a mechanism to reach let's say global goal and democratize, let's say, their capabilities to everyone. Is extremely interesting because let's say when I started 10 years ago, thinking about, oh yeah, one day there will be someone on the other side of the world that will pick these concepts and that will make them available to everyone. I couldn't even imagine. I mean, I was struggling to define the vocabulary of microdance, and thinking about that today is like amazing. I mean, I'm honestly over the moon for what I heard today. But the other thing that I think is very interesting is this concept that so with webcrams, you didn't take only let's say an entrepreneurial journey, but you also took along the community, creating something that is available for them to use, to try to play with without all the friction that you might have found in other with other products. That I think is super cool, and I really like as approach. Uh, yeah, so I think it's what you discuss is it's resigned very well with me. I hope also with the audience, and also I would definitely encourage to give it a go and try that, and potentially I think we can reach you out, so suggesting features and stuff like that. Correct?
Yes, we are very open to hear what the community is telling us. That's actually the goal of launching something that is free, easy. Is that we want to hear back from the community, and we really want to build something that is good for developers, because there are so many companies building something that are good for marketers, designers, and we want to be one of those that want to build something good for developers. So your opinion as developers that are hearing us is super important.
Amazing. Any final words that you want to add, Julia?
Yeah, perhaps let's think of a future also. I think there is one super nice concept that if you stop to think, developers, they love coding in the free time. And it's a fact. Only 12% of developers say they don't like to code in their free time. And that's a lot of wasted energy in a sense. So we also want with Webcrums to canalize all this energy into building something that's huge and that we can use together. So that's what we aim with Webcrums.
That's remarkable. I really like that. So, Julia, thank you very much for being with us today. I really enjoy, honestly, the discussion, and I really love the project. I think you're heading towards a better future. And thank you for putting everything together, and also for the big idea that you have. Because thinking to create a global community behind Microfrontends with the capability to do what you described in this episode is definitely a think big activity that not everyone is doing every day. So thank you for that, and thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah, and actually, thank you for inspiring me, because before reading about micro frontends, I only had an idea and I had no idea how it would be implemented. So it was very inspirational.
That's the power of community, right?
Exactly. That's great.
So thank you everyone for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this session with Julia, and check out Webcrums. I will share the link in the description of this video, and see you in the next episode of Microfrontends in the Trenches.